In a world before hospitals, before surgical steel and sterile rooms, healing was sacred. Illness was not only physical, it was spiritual, demonic, cosmic. And the cure did not come from medicine alone. It came from the gods. Two goddesses stood at the threshold between life and death. Two divine physicians whose names were whispered in temples, etched into clay tablets, and invoked over the sick and dying. Tonight, we step into ancient Mesopotamia. Hello and welcome back, witches and wanderers, to the Morbid Witch Podcast. I'm your host, Kari. Tonight we travel to the cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates, where cities first rose from mud brick and myth intertwined with daily survival. This episode is a deep dive into two of the most powerful healing deities of the ancient world, Gula and Ninisina, goddesses of medicine, childbirth, protection, and the expulsion of disease-bearing spirits. Though sometimes treated as separate figures, and other times merged through syncretism, these goddesses represent the Mesopotamian understanding of health as a divine balance between body, spirit, and fate. They were not distant celestial beings. They were invoked in homes, temples, and bedside prayers. Their presence lived in clay amulets, sacred dogs, and ritual incantations meant to ward off unseen forces. Tonight, we explore their origins, their symbols, their myths, and the profound role they played in shaping one of humanity's earliest medical traditions. To understand Gula and Ninisina, we must first understand how Mesopotamians viewed illness. Disease was rarely seen as random. It was often interpreted as punishment from the gods, intrusion by malevolent spirits, or imbalance within the cosmic order. Healing therefore required more than herbs or surgery. It required ritual purification, prayer, and divine intervention. Physicians existed, yes, but many were also priests or exorcists. Medical texts from clay tablets reveal a blend of practical remedies: salves, poultices, plant extracts, alongside incantations meant to drive away demons believed to inhabit the body. In this environment, goddesses like Gula and Ninisina were not optional figures of worship. They were essential protectors whose favor could mean the difference between recovery and death. Temples dedicated to healing functioned almost like early hospitals. The sick would sleep within sacred precincts, hoping for dreams sent by the goddess that revealed cures. These sanctuaries blurred the line between religion and medicine, making divine physicians among the most frequently invoked deities in daily life. Gula stands as one of the most revered goddesses in the Mesopotamian pantheon, eventually becoming second only to Ishtar in prominence among goddesses. Her name became nearly synonymous with healing itself. She was not merely associated with medicine, she embodied it. Known as a divine physician and midwife, Gula was believed to oversee childbirth, surgery, recovery, and the delicate moment when life teetered on the brink of death. Her symbols were deeply telling. Dogs were sacred to her, often depicted at her feet or beside her throne. In ancient Mesopotamia, dogs symbolized healing and guardianship, possibly because of their observed tendency to lick wounds, which people associated with curative properties. The scalpel, another symbol, marks her as a deity uniquely tied to surgical precision, a rare attribute among ancient gods. She was not just mystical. She represented hands-on intervention. Gula's relationships further anchored her importance. Her spouse varies across traditions. Sometimes Ninurta, sometimes Mandanu, sometimes Abu, illustrating how her cult spread across regions and merged with local beliefs. Her children, Damu and Gunura, were also healing deities, forming a divine lineage dedicated to restoration and life preservation. Through them, healing was not a single act, but an entire divine ecosystem. Ninisina, whose name translates roughly to Lady of Isen, served as the tutelary deity of the city of Isen, a protector and patroness whose influence extended beyond health to civic identity. Like Gula, she was described as a divine physician and midwife, but her mythological role often emphasized spiritual cleansing and demon expulsion. Where Gula sometimes embodied surgical and physical healing, Ninisina frequently appeared in incantation texts as a force that drove out malevolent entities believed to cause disease. She was invoked during rituals designed to cleanse homes and bodies of spiritual contamination. Her healing was both preventative and corrective. She was the goddess one prayed to before illness struck and during its darkest moments. Her lineage connects her to the heavens and earth alike. She was considered the daughter of Anu, the sky god, and Urash, a goddess associated with the earth. This parentage symbolically positioned her between celestial authority and terrestrial reality. Her spouse, Papislag, and her children, Damu, Gunura, and Suma, further tie her to a divine network of healing and protection, reinforcing her role as both mother and medic within the divine order. Visual representation of Gula and Ninisina reveals striking similarities, which is one reason historians sometimes debate whether they were distant figures or regional variations of the same goddess. Both are frequently depicted seated on thrones, radiating calm authority rather than wrath. Their imagery communicates reassurance, a divine bedside presence rather than a distant judge. Dogs appear prominently in reliefs and statues, often positioned protectively at their feet. Archaeological excavations have uncovered numerous dog figurines, dedicated in temples associated with these goddesses, suggesting that worshippers left them as offerings in hopes of healing. Tools resembling medical instruments, including scalpels, occasionally appear alongside them, emphasizing their practical medical associations rather than purely symbolic ones. Their clothing and posture are regal, but approachable. Unlike war gods clad in armor, healing goddesses are shown with open hands or gentle gestures. The message was clear. They were divine, but they were also compassionate. Their iconography blended authority with nurturing, a reminder that healing was both powerful and tender. Over centuries, the worship of Gula and Ninisina began to intertwine. As empires rose and fell, cities merged traditions, and deities absorbed one another's attributes. In many later texts, their identities blur, with names used interchangeably and titles overlapping. This syncretism is not unusual in Mesopotamian religion. It reflected political alliances, migration, and the natural evolution of belief. Rather than erasing one another, Gula and Ninisina often became dual aspects of a singular healing archetype. The divine physician who oversees both physical and spiritual wellness. Their combined legacy shows how ancient cultures did not rigidly separate deities, but allowed them to evolve organically, much like language or medicine itself. This merging also highlights a broader truth. Healing was too important to confine to one name or city. Whether invoked as Gula, Ninisina, or another regional title, the goddess of medicine remained one of the most universally revered figures across Mesopotamia. Gula and Ninisina together symbolize the unity of science and spirituality in the ancient world. They remind us that early medicine was never purely mechanical. It was emotional, ritualistic, and deeply human. Their dogs symbolize loyalty and protection. Their scalpels symbolize precision and knowledge. Their myths symbolize hope in the face of uncertainty. They also represent balance between birth and death, between heaven and earth, between illness and recovery. In a time when disease could sweep through cities without warning, these goddesses provided psychological comfort as much as spiritual aid. They were embodiments of reassurance in a fragile world. Gula and Ninisina were not merely mythological figures. They were guardians of humanity's earliest attempts to understand health and survival. Through them, we glimpse a civilization that sought healing, not only through herbs and tools, but through reverence, ritual, and divine partnership. Thank you for listening to the Morbid Witch Podcast. If tonight's journey taught us anything, it's that medicine once lived in temples as much as in hands, and that compassion has always been one of humanity's most sacred remedies. Follow the podcast on Spotify, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. If you enjoyed this episode, please share and like with your friends. It helps the channel grow and progress. As always, stay strange, stay spooky, and remember, the shadows are always watching.